Hi, guys, and welcome back to the Astro Imaging channel. I'm back for our 5th anniversary. I had to come back and say hi. I know my leaving was abrupt, but I really needed some rest. Not back for good, but I do plan on stopping back in and saying hi. That said, great session coming up tonight. A processing challenge on the Orion Nebula. I got to look at some of the submissions, and there are lots of good submissions and a bunch of people in the room that want to show off what they've done. So that said, I'm just here to say hi, but I'm going to hand it over to Alex. Alex is moderating tonight. And Alex, you there?
I'm here. Okay, I think we got most of that on there, so we're doing good. And the first thing I want to do is to commence sharing my screen. So thank you, Adam, for coming back and saying hey to everybody. And as I've told you guys many times, Adam's just fine, and he's doing well, and he's helping us out, fixing things and working in the background all the time. So everything's going real good. Let's share my screen here. I'm not sharing. There we go. Okay. And coming down to my PowerPoint and showing my PowerPoint. There you go. Oops, I'm at the end of the PowerPoint. Happy 5th anniversary, the Astro Imaging channel. That's what it looked like back then on June 7th, 2014, 5 years ago, almost tonight. Since then, there have been 253 videos, and those videos are archived on the website. You can go back and look at any of them. And believe me, many people have looked at many of them. They said, oh, don't show a bunch of boring statistics, Alex. And I said, I'm going to anyway. You guys and the people out there have watched something like 10 million minutes. That's 19 years and 248 days. I might want to add that considering that there are 2 eyeballs probably for each of those, that's like 40 years of watching the Astro Imaging channel over the last 5 years. There's some interesting statistics here. 702,000 people have clicked on one or another of our videos to watch them. But you got to understand that 702,000, while it sounds like a lot, it sometimes includes robots and computers and other weird things. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. They try to clean those out, but they're in there. The important metric that everybody likes to look at is the average duration, 14 minutes and 44 seconds. Now that may mean to some of you that, hey, people don't even stay for the whole hour and a half long show. Actually, they do. What a lot of people do is they watch a little bit of it, and then they cut out and they come back again later. So they count that, that splits their average watching time. That 1444 is actually pretty high for what we're talking about here. Here's an interesting one. We never really exactly figured out who was paying for the Astro Imaging channel. We've got our suspicions and stuff like that, but about 4 or 5 months ago, we decided that we need to do something about that because it does cost to put this on the air a little bit. We did sell some t-shirts and some other stuff, but we've never been real pushy on money. And now, as you can see, we've become internet billionaires. We've made $35.29 in the last however long we've been doing this. So we did nothing and nothing and nothing forever, and then all of a sudden it booped up really good. There have been some really lovely people out there making comments, and there's been some real idiot jerky cretins making comments, likes and dislikes. There's comments of all sorts and a whole lot of other statistics there. Here's a list of our top 10 programs, and you can see that our most popular programs are those where a manufacturer like Guillain Roshan with his Backyard EOS, Backyard Nikon, and the guys from PHT2 Guiding, the guys from Sequence Generator Pro, Star Tools, and PoleMaster, they kind of showed us that, and there's links to the Astro Imaging channel on their websites. That's where we get a lot of the top 10. But you can also see that a lot of it has been our own hard work. Adam is responsible for the 3rd highest hit rate. Josh and has got a couple of them in that list. um, our, what is that, 7th or 6th or whatever that is. That was various of us. We all got together and showed our own astro imaging rigs and made comments about them. So that was kind of cool. There are, as I said, 252 of these. People from all over the world, 83 countries altogether, have watched the Astro Imaging channel over time. United States is definitely the heaviest consumer of the Astro Imaging channel with 72%. And then this is sad. This is really sad over here, guys. And I say guys because except for, who is that, Linda right there? Except for, I mean, we got mostly guys watching this, and we really got to do something to get, get a representation across the humanity here. Most people watch it on our YouTube page, but some people, God, I heard about one guy that sits there with his 54-inch screen TV and watches the Astro Imaging channel. That must be weird. At any rate, that's our 5-year summary of where we've been. I thought you might enjoy seeing some of those statistics, get a kick out of them, and here we are. But the reason we came here, Eric Coles has donated to the community a bunch of really good data, and we're going to have Eric tell you a little bit about that data and where it came from. Following that, we had people, let me get out of here, out of there, and on the Astro Imaging screen, if you go there, actually, I don't want to do that. I'm going to stop sharing here. We had 15 people process Eric's data and turn it in so that you could see what their different interpretations are. It's always amazed me to see how many different interpretations you get from the same set of data. And 5 of them, I think, are here today. Douglas is going to go first, and he's going to talk to us. And then then the next will become John DeGeorge, and then Michael, and finally Tom Pickett will show us what they've gotten out of the data. And when they've done that, you can be sure to talk on your Rumble Talk and everything else like that, and visit with us and make your comments. Each of these guys only have 10 minutes, so it's going to be a little bit limited. You're not going to find out everything you want to know, but it'll certainly inspire you to get started. Are we ready? Eric, wake up. You ready? Take it.
Thanks, Alec. Let me share my screen. Do this. Share. So all the data was collected at the Sierra Remote Observatories, which is about 20 some miles into the mountains from Fresno. And in this center image, this scope right here was the culprit. That's my scope. 305 millimeter f3.8 Riccardi Honders by Astrophysics on a plane wave mount with an XTSL S-Big 16200 camera. And here's the posting on AstroBin. I got about, about 20, almost 21 hours of RGB and then hydrogen alpha. And we collected both the wide field and then zoomed in and took a bunch of very fast images of the core so we could resolve the trapezium. And that's the data that I posted. That's all I have, Alex. So back to you.
Okay, thank you. We're going to move on to, who are we going to move on to? It's in my notes here. Doug Lala, come on in and tell us what you got.
Okay, can you hear me?
We're going fine, yeah.
Okay, screen share, application. Okay, can you see my screen?
Yep, you're good.
Okay, so when I started this, I had a few processing goals. I wanted to bring out as much wispy nebula cloud as possible without detracting from the image. Preserve the trapezium stars. I would try to minimize my processing time through using scripts. Those are found in Insight, and also I found the scripts by skypixels.att by Harmut Bornman and others very useful. And I wanted to achieve a pleasing color balance to my eyes and explore the variations of the data. So there's my image. Nice to have good data. Can't really do much if you have bad data. Thank you very much for the data. And in the end, I was able to preserve the core stars. And this was without using the drizzled HA data.
Doug, could you
Yes.
stop for a second? Are you still showing the slide that says M42?
No.
That's what I'm getting here. Have you started your slideshow?
Yes, I've showed about 4 slides. Now I'm going back to M42.
Yeah, go back to the title slide, because
So
I still see you on your yeah.
interesting, because I could stop sharing.
No, don't bother about that. Just click on the bottom on the next slide down, or
Well, there's okay.
Doug, press F5.
Huh. Weird.
okay. What we can see is your. Okay, now we see you live. You've stopped sharing.
All right.
So start your
It's
PowerPoint.
like my, let's see, let's go back to there. Screen share. Okay, application window. It likes it lost itself.
There
So
we go.
now, do you have my screen now?
Now we're saying, okay. Now you've got an orange box around the, well, go ahead and
so then there's the whole screen.
Uh-huh.
I page down one. Do you see the text?
We aren't seeing the slideshow. We're seeing PowerPoint itself.
Oh, you're sharing. Okay. Tell you what, rather than worry too much about it, we can actually see what you've got over at the left. So click on your index of the slides on the left-hand column there. Just click on the second one down. See what happens. There we go. That'll do for today. Okay. So keep going. Now we can see processing goals. Go for it.
Okay. So I went through the processing goals, basically trying to make everything balanced, and it's easy to really blow this nebula out. It's so bright. So I was able to, there's the my picture. Do you see that?
Uh-huh.
Okay. I was able to preserve the core, which I was happy with. I wasn't able to incorporate the drizzle data, though, successfully, but I was able to see the core stars. I actually did an HDR combination of the green and HA. I did that because the green channel wasn't blown out, and you still had the core stars. By doing that, I was able to, in the black and white image, I was able to maintain the nebulosity and also the trapezium stars. I then did the normal processing, channel combination, photometric calibration, stretching, so on for the RGB nonlinear, and then combined both of them in the process script NB-RGB combination in PixInsight. Made final adjustments in ACDC, and then I got my final image. Now, the drizzle data, I was able to register and scale the drizzle core data using an AstroPixel processor in the Mosaic registration mode. However, I had a problem matching the average background brightness with the H full range data, and so when I ended up, you could see the differential brightness and basically the lines of the box when I used the Pixel Insight preview insertion tool. So I ended up not doing that. And subsequently, I tried all kinds of things. I tried out the neural network program Starless ++ to eliminate HA stars and tried to combine that, but that didn't seem to produce any better results. I do like that program. I'm sure it'll be useful in the future. It's by Nikita Vazura, and she says that neural network can remove stars from images in one simple step, leaving only background. More technically, it is a convolutional residual net with encoder decoder. Anyway, very complicated. It's a sort of an amazing achievement, and probably these kind of tools will be useful as they get more advanced in our future. So there's my final image, and I guess that's what I have to say.
Thank you very much, Doug. Hey, good job on that. I really liked your image. Tolga, do you have any questions coming in from YouTube over there? Have you been monitoring YouTube? And Doug, you can stay.
Yes, I am. There are no questions over there right now.
Okay, and there aren't any on Rumble Talk either. So Doug, stay in the room in case anybody does have questions. In case anybody out there is wondering, it takes a lot to get the show started sometimes, and with Adam in particular coming in and everything, it was another little ball to juggle. So be sure to put in your questions and things and your comments on Rumble Talk, and we'll kind of keep going here. Let's see who's next on the list. John DeGeorge.
Yeah, I think that's me.
Yeah, John, why don't you take over and tell us what you've got to tell us?
Okay, can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah, okay, and your screen is showing.
And all right, so this is my first steps beyond one-shot color. In fact, I'm pretty new at this altogether. Oops. Yeah, did you guys get my next screen? Got 5-month crash course.
Yep, that's
okay.
That's how you learned astrophotography in 5 months, huh?
Yeah, so thanks to the internet, and thanks actually to you guys, because I've watched, I'm sure I logged quite a few of those hours that you just reported on, Alex. But I have a couple of friends that had telescopes and suggested that I give this a try, and my wife was supportive. And but I knew no one that did astrophotography, so all this kind of came from watching YouTube videos and looking at tutorials on the web. And about halfway through this process, I came upon PixInsight. I started trying out CCD Stack and Photoshop, and as the sky got warmer and my DSLR got warmer, I started having a lot of trouble getting rid of noise, and it seemed like PixInsight was the way to go. So most of my investment in PixInsight has been getting rid of the background with dynamic background extraction, and then fighting with noise. And these pictures down at the bottom are kind of the evolution. They'll look really good at that scale, but if you blow them up big, you can kind of see they're still beginner images. But switching to the data that Eric provided, it's pretty clear that if you have nice data, it's so much easier to get these images to work out right. But this was a whole new step for me. So one of the sets of tutorials that I came upon that's been very, very helpful has been Kieran Mersikia, and I apologize if I've blown his name, from Gibraltar. He's got these great tutorials up for a variety of PixInsight topics, including some that were directly useful for this purpose: preparing monochrome images, combining monochrome, producing HDR, and combining the LRGB and narrowband is largely what I needed to do. So if anybody wants to stop listening to me, that's all they need to do is go to that website and follow along, and you can do this stuff. So I'm going to just highlight a couple things that were kind of odd and surprising to me. One was dealing with the core images, particularly the hydrogen alpha and the red channels. The stars were a little bit oddly shaped in the red channel, and the normal star alignment process, which I'd gotten pretty used to using and seemed to work pretty well, I just couldn't get it to work for this. So I moved over to dynamic alignment, and it turns out that's a really cool feature in PixInsight. You pull up two images and identify common locations in the two images, and then it does a pretty good job. So that was a nice discovery. And then the next step was combining a set of monochrome images. And again, I started with DSLR, so I didn't really think about this. And my first go, everything turned all red, and oh, what the heck? And then I read the tutorial a little more carefully. And the linear fit process allows you to bring the histograms of several images into alignment based on their brightness. And once I followed the tutorial, again, that was actually really straightforward, and it got the picture a lot closer. I guess I should point out my background actually is in numerical modeling for water resources. So I've played with computers a lot. I've worked with a lot of engineering software. I've made images out of spatial data, but I've never worked with image processing, and certainly never with astrophotography. So, but the whole approach of PixInsight I found, well, not exactly, it wouldn't be intuitive or easy without the tutorials. Once you have the tutorials, it all makes a lot of sense. So I think I like this a lot. I had a lot more trouble with Photoshop, not having a real background in more artistic photography manipulation. Then the next trick was in blending the two levels of images to create this HDR composition. And the aspect of deciding which part of the image should get blended works out rather automatically with this PixInsight HDR composition device. It actually will generate a mask that picks out the areas of the image that are, I think, brighter and more defined in the high resolution image or the wider dynamic range image, and blends it in. And actually, I'm not really sure how it does that, but magically it seemed to work with just a little bit of twiddling with the however you say that, binarizing threshold and mask smoothness. It seemed to work pretty well, and then got the result I was looking for. Now, this being my first shot, I struggled a bit with color, and every time I turned around, the colors seemed kind of strange, and I went back to playing with the calibration and stretch. I think it turned out later, as I read through everything more carefully, I really should have waited to do the final HDR multi-scale transform until farther down in the process. But I did it separately for the RGB and the H alpha and managed to get them to blend later. But I did want to point out something with this HDR multi-scale. This is, I think, where a lot of the art comes and what you are trying to see. The default number of layers in the PixInsight multi-scale process is 6. And when I use that, you really see a lot of harsh detail in the nebulosity. And I wasn't really looking for that. I was looking for more overall structure, but I didn't want to lose the kind of flowing nature of the nebula. That was kind of what I was aiming for. So I ended up changing this number of layers to 8. And I think looking through the other presentations that people put up in the workshop, everyone was trying different numbers there and got a different feel for the images, even though we were quite a few of us were using PixInsight. Oops. And then finally combining the RGB and HA data. Again, this was a fairly simple thing with using pixel math, with doing a linear combination of the red and hydrogen alpha into the red zone. And I don't know if this is a fairly standard way of doing it. This is how Kieran suggested in his tutorial. It seemed to work out well, but then I needed to play with colors again, leading to that final image. Before commenting on that, though, I want to comment on the hydrogen alpha image in the upper left is really beautiful, and I think because of that, I went and I bought a monochrome CMOS camera. So my wife thanks you for that, Eric. Anyway, then going from this final image and playing with the colors, it did get kind of that salmon color, which I've heard a couple people on the net kind of not really like. I would have liked to have some of the purple still in it, so I need some more skill in blending the colors, but I thought that looked pretty good, and it got at the overall structure that I was looking for. And then final touch up, there was a little streak in the vertical streak in the image, and I used the clone stamp right at the end to kind of wash that out. That's a really subtle thing. And then I, just for kicks, I opened it up in Adobe Lightroom and managed to get the background just a little darker and a little bit clearer. So that's how I ended up with my final image. And Eric, I think that's it. Or Alex, that's it.
Okay, thank you very much. Did we generate any questions? A couple of people thanked you for giving that shout out to Light Vortex. Kron's sources have really helped a lot of people. I know that, so that's really good of you to do that. Tolga, you got anything over there from the YouTube comments?
Just a little, I guess, constructive feedback. We have to figure out a way to remove these thumbnails on the bottom of the screen. It's covering part, you know, all these our heads and our little icons over here is covering part of the presentation, and they're right. I mean, we have to figure out a way. And also, second, people who are in the room, if we're not talking, turn off your webcam and mute your mics.
And we've got most of that taken care of. And check out the chat screen while you're, you know, there's a third chat screen over in the room, and check out your chat screen, and you will see that. As far as the other thing, Terry has chimed in with a couple of places to get rid of those. We've been trying to do it for a long time, and I guess Terry might have cracked a nut here and figured out how to do that. But for right now, I'm not going to do it in the middle of a broadcast in case I screw something up entirely. And we're going pretty good. In Astro Molly's got a comment over here I can't read yet. Here we go. Yeah, okay. We are back to our third person. Let me take an interlude here while who is this next? Michael is getting ready. These images were all very good images, okay? They were all substantially different. We, Tolga, Eric, Terry, Molly, me, the bunch of us, argued for a little while, not real strongly, but we argued a little about which one we liked more. And believe me, you are hearing from people that we thought had something special to share, not necessarily the people who made the best images. Okay, well, we don't know which was the best image because we never decided. I think what's the best image depends on what you want. And believe me, we argue about it a little bit, which means that there is no one best image. I can never pick an image of the week because I like them all. But Mike, are you ready?
Yes, sir.
Okay, you're ready to go. So take it away, sir.
Okay, I'm going to share my screen. Can you see my screen?
Yeah, you're doing fine.
Okay. I started imaging about 2 years ago, and I used to use nebulosity for my processing. And back in December, I got PixInsight, and it made my terrible images kind of mediocre. You know, I'm pretty satisfied with them, but I have a long way to go. And I owe a lot of the techniques I got from Mitch Arsenault, Astro Dude, on YouTube. A guy named Sean Nielsen's another guy that I got a lot of my information. Trevor Jones, Astro Backyard, and Chuck's Astrophotography, plus this channel, of course. And I still use a one-shot color to image. I haven't gone down the rabbit hole of mono, with all the filters and all the flats and all that stuff. So this is just my second time that I actually processed RGB data. And the data is really nice, and I want to thank Eric Coles for supplying it. First thing I did is I just took the RGB subs here, well, the stacks, and I, under processes, and you find channel combination, and that's right here. And what I did is I just drag, you can just drag the red here, which is kind of cool. You can just drag this tab and drop it in. And then you can take the blue tab and you drop it in to the blue section. And then you take the green tab, drop that in. And then when you hit this, this global button, the supply button, you end up with, let me close this off. I ended up with this image right here. And this is the red, green, and blue combined, but you notice it's got a lot of red background noise. And I suspect that's from gradients from light pollution, or that's what I think it is. So in order to get rid of that red background, you got to use dynamic background extraction, and that's under processes. And all of these are alphabeticalized, so they're easy to find. You can just go to all processes and everything's alphabeticalized. And I went to the dynamic background extraction, and I used, I think I used the defaults here. And when I generated, it makes these sample points. Okay, you zoom in, and you want to make sure that these sample points aren't on any of the nebulosity or stars. So you can drag them, you can move them. What I ended up doing is I just, I drug them all off to the side, like off the nebulosity and off the stars, and then I hit the apply button here, and I wound up with oh, I gotta close that off. Yes, I do want to leave that. Okay, and I ended up with this image. No, not that one. It was a nonlinear image. This one, okay. So this is the RGB combine and then dynamic extraction, background extraction. So now the sky looks more natural. You got the dark gray, and it's linear still, and you can tell by this green tab here, which means that you can actually unstretch it when it's linear. Okay, so I'll restretch it like that, and to get rid of or to make this linear, I use the histogram transformation, and I slid these sliders here to get it to the point where I liked it, and then I hit the apply button, and from there I ended up with that, which is now it's nonlinear, okay? Because if you try to unstretch it, it doesn't unstretch, and it doesn't have this green tab here, okay? So you know that this is permanently stretched, and you notice that it's got its color and it's in the background. And I also used a range mask, and I don't have that set up, but I did use a range mask to protect the background, and I stretched it a bit to get this color the way it is now. And then I took the HA data that Eric supplied, and I did the same thing. You can see that this is non-linear now. It hasn't been stretched. So I opened up the histogram function, and I stretched it to nonlinear, and it ended up like this. This is actually after I did the local histogram equalization on it. You know, this tool here, you can do a preview here, and when you slide these sliders, you can change it. And I played around with those sliders until I got what I liked. And then I used the HDR button tool, and I think I used the default number 6 here. And when I applied that, it brings out a lot of this detail in the HA data. So I came up with that, and then what was my next step? Okay, and then what I did is I added this data to my color data. Okay, and by the way I did that, I used process color spaces and LRGB combination. Okay, and that's this tool here. And what you want to do, okay, so what I'm going to do here, I'm going to add this HA image to my color image, okay? So what you do is you uncheck the blue, green, red, okay? And then you just drag that tab to the luminance, because I use the hydrogen alpha data as a luminance channel, okay? And then I drug this to the color image. And after I did that, I ended up with this guy here. And for some reason, I couldn't get the Running Man to really reveal itself very good, but I ended up stretching it also with saturation. I used the curves tool here. And if you hit the S, that's saturation, and it's a curve, and you can increase the saturation. If you go to the RGB here, it's the luminance channel, or the light and dark. You can tweak that. And anyways, that's what I did, and that's what I ended up with. This is the image that I posted on the site on Astro Imaging Channel. And then after playing around with it a little bit longer, I actually ended up with this, which I like better. It's got some more detail to it and everything. But like I said, this is just the second time that I've actually processed mono data, and it was pretty enlightening. It was pretty fun. You know, maybe in the future I'll end up buying a mono camera and go down that rabbit hole. But right now I'm happy shooting in my backyard with my one-shot color, and every once in a while I'll go out to a dark site and capture some better data there. But that's it.
Well, thank you very much. Is there anything else you wanted to say?
No, that's it.
Okay. You know, you said the Running Man disappeared.
Yeah.
The Running Man's mostly blue. And when you used the luminance from the hydrogen alpha, which is mostly red, that wouldn't have shown through very well.
Ah, okay, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, so that's where it goes. At any rate, any other questions? I'm not getting anything off Rumble Talk except for a few comments about some of the people really liked some of the resources you mentioned, things like that, Mike.
Oh, good. Okay.
And for those of you who see Almico's name on cloudy nights and imagine some kid down in Venezuela following astroimaging, it's not. It's Mico. And here's El Mico himself. So, okay. Don't forget, guys, put your questions in and stuff like that. Was there something from in the room? Okay. We're going to switch now to Tom Hutchinson, right? Yeah, Tim Hutchinson.
Tim.
Hutchinson. Okay, Tim Hutchinson's is coming in. And here you go, Tim, you're on. You're showing your picture.
Thank you, Alex. And you should be seeing my presentation, correct?
We're seeing a background screen, and
Right.
it says M42 Processing Workshop,
Yep.
and you're good.
Okay, good. My name's Tim Hutchison. Pleasure to be with you. Thank you very much, Astro Imaging Channel, for the invitation. I'm a retired guy. I live in Pittsburgh. I'm a photography enthusiast. When you retire and you annoy your wife too much, she buys you a telescope and tells you to go out in the backyard. And so that happened in October of 2018. I've not been doing this for very long. I process with PixInsight primarily. Started with Photoshop, but quickly transitioned into PixInsight. My goals for processing this data, I really wanted to bring out the HA data. I thought it was beautiful when I looked at the HA data itself, and so I really wanted to emphasize that. Also, of course, I wanted to protect the core. It was my intention to use the core files, but when I got done processing the main image, I was happy with where I was and decided not to push my luck. So so I didn't attempt that. So I'll go quickly through these early slides here, but of course use channel combination, as others have said already, to get the RGB image. I used background neutralization and the color calibration tool to get the colors in line, and then used SCNR to kind of eliminate the greens. Deconvolution was my next step. The way that I did that was I created a range mask first, and then created a star mask, and I subtracted the star mask from the range mask, used that as the mask on the image to really target the nebulosity. Used dynamic PSF to create a PSF image, and ran deconvolution. After that, I used multi-scale linear transform to eliminate any of the background noise. There really wasn't much, but it's just kind of a habit, and I ran it anyway. So I create a luminosity mask, stretch that so that it's nonlinear, apply the luminosity mask, and then use MLT with the values that you see there to kind of combat the background noise. I used, again, shout out to the folks at Light Vortex Astronomy. I used techniques that I learned from them originally to add the HA data. And so, excuse me, I extracted the red channel from the RGB image, and then given the bandwidth of the red channel and the H alpha channel, I combined a normalized version of those two images to do two things. One, do the combination, and also to sort of eliminate the stars. And I sort of tweak that R bandwidth, the red channel bandwidth, until the stars are mostly gone. And so I started at 100 and kind of pulled that down to around 40. Until I got an image that I was happy with. And then I used pixel math to combine that new combined image with the RGB image that we had previously. So we're still linear here. Adding in the sort of gain that you get in that combined image with a boost factor is what brought in the hydrogen alpha. After you do that, it's always a good thing to neutralize the background again, because it kind of pushes the reds up in the background. So I ran another background neutralization after that was complete. So now it's time to stretch. Of course, use the normal methods to stretch the data, increase the contrast a little bit, and increase the saturation a little bit with the curves tool. And of course, the core was blown out. So I turned to the HDR multi-scale transform function. As you heard from some of the other presenters, I kind of tweaked around the number of layers. I landed on 7, and you can see the difference in the image there from before and after running HDR MT. Another go round with curves. Both in contrast and stretching the saturation a little bit, yielded that image. My final step was to take MLT again, but this time turn towards sharpening, not noise reduction. And so I used MLT to kind of bring out a little bit more of the detail that we have in the core there. And so that was the final image that I came up with. If I had to do it again, I think I would concentrate a little bit more on the dust lanes, because I wasn't real happy with how much the dust lanes sort of disappeared outside of the main nebula, and maybe a go with local histogram equalization to try and bring out some more detail in the core. So thank you all, and thank you, Eric, for providing this terrific data. I really appreciate it. And that's all I had.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate everybody's contribution here today. I think we did pretty good. I just loved all of the images that I saw in the video feed, or in the workshop itself. For those, let me start sharing my screen here if I don't mess this up. Share my entire screen. Share. Trying to share my screen. My screen doesn't want to share. I can't get my screen shared, but you can go to the main website, the Astro Imaging Channel website, and you can ask it to, you can look at those. I think there's 15 different images, a couple of repetition. Do you have any questions coming in, Tolga, from the YouTube comments?
No, a couple of people just said thank you to Almico for doing a good job.
Oh, thank you.
Chuck's Astrophotography, thank you for mentioning his name.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you.
He was watching live, so all good comments.
Okay, cool. We hope you enjoyed this processing workshop, and more of you will participate in the future. Again, we're not looking for the best image, because I don't think it's easy to define what the best image is. We're looking for something that did something new. I was looking for, a couple of people were professed to be, I'm brand new at this astro imaging thing, or this is the first time I've processed LRGB data, or I used some tools that other people don't usually use. So let's face it, everybody's heavy into PixInsight with a little bit of Photoshop thrown in, and the people that we invited in used various things. We will be doing this again next month, and if it proves to be popular, we will continue it in the future. Next month, you all have a chance to process something that you don't often get a chance to process. Terry, you awake? You want to unmute yourself and get in here, because you're about to tell people what it is that is coming up next week. So okay, go ahead and tell us, Terry.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. We don't see you.
Okay, that's all right. I'm very, very shy.
Well, kangaroos are. You've spent a long time in that little pouch, and everything's fine.
Everything's scary outside the pouch. Well, the guys from the Astro Imaging Channel asked if I could present some data from the Southern Hemisphere. So I picked a few candidates. It went in, the guys and gals voted, and they came up with NGC 1968. It's an emission nebula in a large magellanic cloud. To me, it kind of looks like the Michelin Man or a robot running through space. My wife sees a puppy. Now I see that as well. It's a full data set. It contains both narrowband and broadband data. This will allow you to explore any direction you want to go in. You can create a traditional image, RGB. You can create a narrowband image. You could try an HA, luminance RGB, or any combination you want. Think about back on what past presenters talked about when you create an image. What do you have in your head? What qualities do you want to project? What features you want to emphasize? And above all, guys, just have fun with it. The data set's pretty big. It's about 86 hours worth of data for you guys. So you should have enough to work with. I think that's about it. And I've also put a small document in there explaining what the target is all about. Have you got that, Alex?
I can tell you that no, I spent ever since midweek when we were actually negotiating that stuff. I've been out in the desert trying to take pictures and build a barbecue shed out at our remote site. So I haven't done my astro imaging channel homework.
It's best to have your priorities.
Yeah. Now, Terry, one other thing. Well, I can't share my screen right now for some reason. I don't know why, but I was going to show you the Astro Imaging Channel workshop webpage where we talk about the workshops and how it is. Now that we've actually done one, I can tell you that they're kind of interesting to see how the different people come up with different interpretations of exactly precisely the same data. It was also fun to listen to Eric talk about what the real answer was to all this and show off the real answer and say, oh no, this guy should. It was fun to listen to for a while. For the first 10.
The data set that I'm presenting, I've actually just published another image on AstroBin or Flickr, and it has very, very similar qualities to this data set as well. So it is basically an RGB image in the background, and it's a narrowband image in the foreground. It's a combination of both. Now, if you just do a search for, I guess, Terry Robinson and AstroBin, it should come up. It's the latest image I just released. About 12 hours ago.
Okay.
So
Cool.
if you have a look at that, that data set is very, very similar to what you're looking at here in quality. The RGB component is binned 2x2, so you'll have to upscale it, which is all part of RGB type imaging. And then you can perform perhaps star reduction techniques that you would have heard through Adam Block, visualizing what you can see in there and just trying to make that come through and just try to have fun with it, guys. That's all it's for. And if it does prove popular, I have several other data sets that I could make available as well.
Okay. I will be rewriting the website tomorrow to incorporate the data set and everything else. There are some questions I got from the people who were in the room tonight and others about the work they did. And among the questions was, can I post this stuff? The answer is yes, you can post this stuff. You can put it on your website. You can put it on your AstroBin site. However, realize that it is not your data. So every time you post it, it has to say that this is your rendition or your processing of Eric Cole's work. And next month, it'll be Terry Robinson's work. You have to mention their names because they're the people who gathered the data. You also can't use it for commercial purposes unless you have permission of these people, and that's a whole separate thing to get the permission and use it. So for your own personal satisfaction, or if you're doing a PowerPoint describing to a bunch of newbies how to process, yes, you can use it. If you're getting paid for making that presentation, you better check with whoever it is that, with Eric in this case, Terry next month, and if we continue doing it, with whoever actually gathered the data. We're rewriting the website to give you a little bit of language to that effect and stuff like that. But the answer is, yeah, you did part of the work. You can post it, but whoever gathered the data also did part of the work, and they need to be recognized as such. Okay. Have we gotten, are there any other comments sitting out there? I haven't checked that for a while. Let's see. You got any comments coming in over there?
No, we're good on YouTube, but I just wanted to ask Terry if he could just tell us about his equipment.
Yes.
What was the image taken with?
Okay. I did include a small PDF document that has that, but what you're looking at is a robotic observatory in an undisclosed location in the Southern Hemisphere. It's a 10-inch ARCOS with a focal length of 9.1. It's running on an astrophysics mount. The camera itself is an STL 11000. It has an FLI filter wheel in front of that, and I'm using Astrodome and Beta filters. And that's about it, really. Pretty standard stuff. So it's not a large instrument, but it seems to do okay. The sight is very dark, and that really helps a lot.
Thank you.
Okay. And one of the arguments we had over the week about which data set to select is something that we can't get from the north. So we made sure that Terry gave us something that was down in the Magellanic Clouds or something like that, something way down south. Thank you very much for that. And I think it started off with Adam in the 5th anniversary, and we had contributions from a whole lot of guys who did a lot of work. I hope you enjoyed the 5th anniversary show and our first recent astro imaging processing workshop. That will be it for tonight, and we are going to stop the broadcast. Those of you in the room, remember, you can stay in the room, which is one of the cool things about being in the room, and we'll continue to talk about life in general. See you next week when, what do we got? Bill Long coming up next week, I think. And so we'll see you next week. Bye-bye.